Please welcome Sarah Wilkinson. Sarah, have I summed up your situation correctly? Maybe you would tell us of your most recent of many brushes with the constabulary.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm so sorry that your wife has been so badly affected, because you're right, no one is exempt anymore, and it affects us all in different ways. And hopefully we can all gather together and support each other through these horrible times. Yeah, it was very peculiar to come back from Turkey, who had essentially rescued us, given us medication, doctors, hospitals, full use actually of any hospital department that we wanted. But not only that, they'd put us up in a hotel, they'd sent government officials to make sure we were okay. We had police guards who actually would even just take us to the shops if we asked them to. So yeah, I'm really hesitant to use the word we were treated as heroes. I'm gonna put it in inverted commas, but we were. And you know, we were welcomed by crowds. In fact, thousands of people turned up. And so we go from that to choosing which flight we wanted to come home on, and I needed to return to surrender for my bail, so I had to discharge myself from hospital in Turkey. I could have stayed there for another 2 weeks and I would have been given all of the treatment that I needed. And there is this question over radiation poisoning, because Ketziot or Negev jail is notoriously known for having being radioactively contaminated, and indeed they checked us with Geiger counters on our way out, well, some of us. So to go from that, and you return to Britain, and you get off the aeroplane, and your passport just doesn't work, and you are then picked up by border guards quite roughly. It was quite an aggressive arrest, and put in another pen. An immigration pen, where there were people desperately trying to get into the country. So, of course, I gave this speech to people saying, why do you want to come to Britain? It's bloody awful here. You know, they arrest British citizens just for returning home. And then suddenly these 9 police plainclothes again, turned up, and it was an extremely aggressive arrest in a very, very public place. This is Heathrow Airport. It's one of the busiest, and it was a very busy time for flights to come in. So it's absolutely full of people, and I don't have anything on except these medical scrubs, which were given to me in the hospital because I'd been so ill. I'd managed to get through 2 sets of clothing. So the hospital had very kindly given me their medical scrubs. So I came back looking like a volunteer doctor, to be honest with you. And I was kind of joking about, I'm quite proud of these medical scrubs. You know, people think I've been a medic in Gaza and I've been doing all this amazing volunteer work, when suddenly I'm being searched. And because I haven't got anything on underneath, because the Israelis have had absolutely every item of underwear that I've probably ever owned, so they're sort of searching me and it's quite obvious that I haven't got anything on underneath, because they're pulling my trousers and they're pulling my top up, and so I'm naked underneath. This is British police. So I was moaning an awful lot about it, and then the handcuffs were attached to me so tightly that it was completely unnecessary. I'm non-violent. I've been on a flotilla to deliver humanitarian aid, so I consider myself as doing something good, not doing something criminal, and I'm being dragged literally because I couldn't walk fast enough for these police, down these stairs and round the backside entrance and down some more stairs into a police van, which is probably half the size of my own toilet. It was tiny, and they wouldn't take the handcuffs off. So then you can't sit back. So as soon as this van set off, you know, I'm being thrown around in this van, and I ended up having to squeeze onto the floor, because otherwise, you know, I was going to end up with a head injury. And that's how Britain treats you. And it's kind of strange. I kind of came from the hullabaloo of Turkey, who had treated me with such respect. We weren't very well after coming out of Israeli custody. Many of us were very, very poorly. Some people had passed out. We were feeling sick and nauseous. We couldn't keep food down, but we were treated with such respect. And to go then straight into the hands of the British police, who treated me as if I had murdered somebody. And then driven all the way, and it's a long way from London to my local police station. They refused to take the handcuffs off, so you can't even sit properly in a car seat. I was transferred to a car sort of halfway, and they refused to take the handcuffs off because I was a danger, and it's astonishing. And I was astonished, and I don't really know what to say about it, apart from the fact I was absolutely shocked. I did know that it was likely that they might arrest me. I thought it might be that they would come on the plane like Richie Medhurst. And because that hadn't happened, I think I sort of relaxed. I didn't say goodbye to my colleagues properly who went through passport control without a problem. And I wish I had done. Really, that was the most upsetting thing, was I hadn't been able to give people a hug who had really, really supported me and really helped me through being ill as well, and flying home feeling unwell, and just being, a really solid support for me. And I couldn't even say goodbye to them, but neither could I tell anybody where I was, because I was refused my phone call. When I got to the station, it's 2:30 in the morning. So they said, "Oh, you can't ring your lawyers. It's 2:30, so you can't have your phone call." And actually that isn't even legal, just because it's 2:30. I mean, it's not really my fault. So I ended up being given a plastic bag to be sick in because I wasn't well, while they were charging me with these 5 counts of terrorism. Or 5 counts of supporting Palestine, as I might prefer to say, because that's what it is. And also 1 for not giving out my PIN number of my phone, which I couldn't do because I didn't have the PIN number on me, and it was written down. And when they arrested me, I didn't take it, so I didn't know it. So they've charged me for that as well, which is the 5th charge. Now, the thing is with these charges is, even if you get a lenient judge who kind of sees a little bit of your side of it, the minimum sentence for the majority of these charges is 10 years. So even with a lenient judge who might say, okay, well, I'm going to let you off that, but I'm not going to let you off this, or even if he gives me the smallest amount, it has to be 10 years. It's a minimum sentence. So I might not get 14 years or 21 years, but I will always get 10 unless I completely win all 5 charges, which is quite a task. You've got a jury. You've got to speak to the jury. They've got to be unanimous. It is very difficult to win all 5 charges. I might win 4, and 1 is I'm not so successful, but that's a minimum sentence of 10 years. So that is quite a frightening prospect for simply posting articles about Gaza on a very, very regular basis. And I will accept that, 30 to 50 posts per day. But out of 70,000 posts, they've picked out 4 posts. Sorry, I'm so used to calling Twitter, not X. It's 4 posts out of 70,000. And I think that is a bit like saying to a heart surgeon, after 17 hours of successful heart surgery, you yawned once, so we're going to sack you. It's a little bit like that for me, because out of 70,000 tweets, they've managed to pick out 4. And 1 of them is deleted. 1 of them never made it into the public domain, but it's in this open source data. So it's not even available for public viewing, and I deleted it straight away. But I'm even being charged for that one, which nobody has seen at all. It's ridiculous, and it's hard work, and I do understand all the other people that have been arrested, and obviously Dr. Al-Oeden has been arrested recently, and like you say, for elderly people holding up placards. It's ridiculous. And I just hope that one by one, we can all end up being acquitted, and the police will realise they've made a horrendous mistake, or the government will realise they're on the wrong side of history, because that's exactly what this is.
I'm pretty nearly speechless, Sarah, to be honest, and I suspect that most of the audience will be too. This is just not the Britain that our forefathers fought for, fought fascism for. This is not the Britain even that existed just a few short years ago, bad though that was in respects. What you've just described to us is that you're facing potentially decades in prison for tweets.
Yeah.
Words. In the ether. Yeah. That's called terrorism.
Yeah.
Unspeakable.
Yeah. I have relatives who died in the war. Obviously, we all do, fighting fascism. And they'd be turning in their graves if they could see what the country has turned into. And you're right, this is freedom of expression that's under attack. But it's not even just freedom of expression. I'm reporting the news. The news comes to me via journalists. I often quote the journalists. I do read the articles, obviously. If I think the article's very good, I'll pick out a paragraph from the article as the heading. So it's not often my words. And I will only post something if it is of public interest. So I'm not going to post what I ate for dinner yesterday or what I had for breakfast. I'm going to post what's happening in Gaza. There's a genocide happening. There's hundreds of thousands of Palestinians that are starving to death under a man-made Israeli starvation campaign. And even this ceasefire is a ruse. You know, there was 92 Palestinians per day that was the last count. I think that they said on average are being killed by the Israelis. And now we are in danger of this ceasefire turning back into an incremental genocide where every single day 10 or 12 Palestinian people will be killed, but it's not as noticeable. I report that. Now I'm going to continue reporting it. And you will probably find that by the time I get into court, they will have changed the charges. They will have added new tweets to those charges because I think they realize some of them, well, maybe they're not strong enough. Maybe she might get acquitted from one. They are allowed to arbitrarily change the charges as they go on. So by the time I get into court, those 5 charges could be completely different. They could be completely different tweets altogether. So every single time I post, I put myself in a position where those tweets could be used against me at a future date. They don't have to stick to these charges. They can change them. Now, when in law and order has that been a thing? It's like this secret evidence or, not providing the evidence so you can't defend yourself. I can't really put a case together if by the time I go to court, the posts that they're charging me for are different. So I know I'm continually having to not really work on my case because my case could change. And that is really quite stressful, but that's the point. The point is to create so much stress that you give up on the whole issue of reporting about Gaza. That is what they want. And so I'm just carrying on as I always do, but I'm aware that those 5 charges could become 10 charges as well by the time I get to court. It's completely arbitrary. This terrorism act it's not static. They can change it. They can play about with it. And it's an extraordinarily dangerous situation that we get into today. This is so dangerous for civil society, for journalists, for doctors even, for teachers in schools, for anyone, for parents trying to explain the Gaza situation to their children. We could all end up being arrested. Basically, you're right. Nobody now is exempt.